Hi, welcome back. It's Catherine with SafeTechie.com, and in this video we're going to set up the restrictions and set up Moby Sip for Apple devices. And this is for Apple mobile devices like iPhones, iPads, iPad minis. And the point of doing this is that when you have an Apple device, Apple comes with Safari, which is a web browser and it lets your child use the internet, but it doesn't monitor or block any of the websites that they go to. So what we're going to do is set up a web browser called Moby Sip, and it allows you to create an account, and you can either just have a basic account that will just block different sites based on the age that you set for your child, or you can have a kind of premium account which will allow you to actually track and monitor all the websites that your child goes to. And so essentially what we'll do is we'll set up restrictions so that your child cannot install and delete apps on their own, so they can't just install maybe an inappropriate app and then delete it later. And then we'll also disable the Safari so that they're not able to use that. And instead, by installing Moby Sip, they'll just use Moby Sip. And you could even set that up for, if they go to have just Moby Sip and you don't have, maybe a Facebook app and other things like that, they can still do all those things through Moby Sip if you want them to. So they could do Facebook and Pinterest and all those other sites, pretty much anything through the Moby Sip web browser instead of an actual application if you wanted that. So let's go ahead and start with installing Moby Sip. So go to your App Store and search Moby Sip, and that's M-O-B-I-C-I-P. And so go ahead and type that in and search it. You'll see it here, Moby Sip Safe Browsing, and go ahead and download it. So once it's done downloading, you can open it. And at this point, you'll need a Moby Sip account. So go ahead either on your iPad or on a computer and go to mobysip.com and create an account for Moby Sip.
Okay, so to create that Moby Sip account, you're going to go to www.mobysip.com. Just hit sign up. And to start with, we're going to do the free basic. And the general difference between these, you can read through these, but the main difference is that if you have a basic account, you're going to set up an age restriction for your child. So you're going to say, okay, my child's in elementary school or middle school or high school, and then kind of based on just general standards, then there's going to be that type of filtering level will be put on your child. So if you say elementary school, then they'll have the strictest blocking and filtering that they have. The high schoolers will have a little bit more lax filtering depending on what age that you say they are. So you don't actually have the ability to monitor the sites they go to with the free account. You just can filter the sites. Now, it works really well. A lot of schools use this. If you want the premium account, then you can get up to 5 devices, and then it will allow you to do a little bit more, such as the setting time limits, and it lets you do actually viewing what sites they go to. So it will give you reports on what sites they actually went to. So like I said, the basic tends to work really well, but if you want a little bit more flexibility, then go ahead and do the premium for $39.99 a year. So I'm going to go ahead and create a free account and then put in your information. Use the same email that you've done in the past just to keep everything in the same account. And once you have all your information, just hit sign up. And now you can go, so you'll have all the information on the different types of accounts there are. I'm going to say no thanks for now. So from here, you can see when you first create the account, you can go to Web Monitor, and they'll give you the first week of the premium so you can see what it's like and if that's something that you want. In this situation, though, I'm just going to move forward like we're using the free version. So go ahead and go back to your iPad and let's log in with the account that you just created.
Okay, so on your computer, you created an account. Now we're going to log in with that account information. So enter your information in and hit login. And the first time that you log in, it will give you information on setting up your restrictions, which we're going to go through now. So hit done. And once you hit done, it will open up Moby Sip. So this is the web browser for Moby Sip. So let's now go ahead and hit your home button and go set up your restrictions. So to do that, go to your settings, your general, go to restrictions, and hit enable restrictions. If you haven't done this before, restrictions is a way to set up all sorts of settings for Apple for your kids. And so in this case, you're going to set up a password that actually allows you to access the restrictions. So this would not be the passcode necessarily to get onto your iPad, because if your child knows that, then they'll be able to get into restrictions. So this is a passcode that no one else knows. You're going to just enter a 4-digit passcode here, and that will allow you to access the restrictions in the future, and it enables the restrictions. And now you can go through and change all these different settings. The 3 things that we're going to do is we're going to turn off Safari, we're going to turn off the ability to install apps, and we're going to turn off the ability to delete apps. And so what that does is says, okay, so now my child cannot use Safari, they have to use Moby Sip web browser. And they can't install apps, so they can't go and install maybe an inappropriate app and then delete it before I know. So they can't do those 3 things, and then that will allow you to kind of force them to use the Moby Sip and still have access to do whatever they want, just based on whatever settings that you put for them, and then you can monitor their activity as well if you choose to get that premium account. So let's go back to your home page and look at Moby Sip. So at this point, you can see that Safari is gone. And if I try to select an app, for example, Moby Sip, and I press and hold, I'm not able to delete it. And if I went to the App Store, I wouldn't be able to install apps either. If your child wanted a specific game or something, they'd have to come to you. You'd put in your restrictions, your restrictions passcode, and then you could install apps based on one specific app that they needed. So let's go ahead and look at Moby Sip. So once you go to Moby Sip, it acts just like a normal web browser. And so it looks like this. You can go onto your settings, and your child, if they try to change settings, would need a username and password. The nice thing is that any of your settings that get changed take place on the computer or the Moby Sip website. And so your child can't come in here and change settings if they don't have the username and password. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to set up the filtering level that you want for your child. So we're done on the iPad. We're going to go back to the computer and go to mobysip.com.
Okay, so now we are back at mobysip.com, and you can visit this site on a computer or also just on your iPhone or iPad or Android as well. So any web browser, go to mobysip.com, and let's log in again. Log in with your username and password. And here in this dashboard is where you're going to set up all your settings for Moby Sip. And Moby Sip has the free version or your premium version. And so just for free, you can look at 2 of these tabs. So let's go to Filter Profiles and to Devices. And so let's actually start with Devices. Devices is going to list all the different mobile devices or just devices in general that you have tied to your Moby Sip account. And so we installed on the iPad, we installed Moby Sip, and we logged in with your account. So now we see this iPad here. So if you installed it on more iPads, you would see them listed as well. And then you can go to Filter Profiles, and you can see the children that you have associated with your account. And so in this case, child 1, and it by default would go to mature. We want to change that. And so what that means is when my child who goes onto the iPad that I just installed Moby Sip for, their filtering or blocking level will be mature. And we actually, in this case, I want it to be strict. And so you only have 3 options. And so it's either strict, moderate, or mature. And so strict would be like elementary school level, moderate would probably be about middle school to high school, and then mature would be adults. And so you have to decide, you don't have as much flexibility with the free, but it does do a good job at blocking, particularly with young children. So go ahead and do strict and save it. And now we're going to go back to the iPad. You'll see where it says child 1 is on that iPad, and any site that you go to will be blocked based on kind of a strict filtering level. Now you do have all these other features for Moby Sip, like I mentioned, that you can pay for. And so if you decide, devices that leave your home, you also want to know what sites they go to, then you would want to pay that premium for the premium account. And that will let you see the websites that are visited. It'll also give you information on applications that are used on the device. You have some different types of applications that you can set rules for. And so overall, Moby Sip is a great product. I'd actually recommend, if you're getting overwhelmed with, oh, there's so many products to install, I would probably recommend, if you want to have devices in your home, go ahead and use Clean Router. If you're looking for one solution that you're going to pay for outside of your home, go ahead and use Moby Sip. That could be on your laptops, on your iPads, on your Androids, as we'll talk about in the next video. If you're going to pay for the solution, go ahead and just pay for one solution, being Moby Sip. That being said, for now, we're going to keep it free. Just use the filtering profiles and say, okay, I have a young child. I just want it to have a strict filtering status. Let's go back to the iPad one last time and take a look at what it looks like on that side.
Okay, so now we have Moby Sip installed on the iPad. We've created an account online. So we're going to come back here, go into Moby Sip. We're going to go to Settings, and under Catherine's iPad, we're going to hit Sync Now. We're just going to sync the changes that we made online. And so now you can see for child 1, it says strict, whereas before it had said mature. And so they have strict access. They can't make any changes to it without the username and password. And now they can just go and do the different sites that they need to. So if you notice, or if they notice, that they're searching things, and every time they try and search anything, it gets blocked, then you might want to look at going back into the Moby Sip and changing it to moderate instead of to strict. But that brings us to the end of setting up your iPad. We're now going to go ahead and move on towards setting up your Android mobile devices, so any of your tablets or your tablets or smartphones that have Android. So if you have any Android device, check out that next video.